Hello, everybody. Welcome to Women Together. Welcome to our online Connect session. I know that many are still joining in, but it's such a joy to be connected and to see everybody as we come in together today. So if you have not yet done so already, you can say hello in the chat and just say where you are coming from today. Yep. And if you'd like, one of the things that I love to do, I know Zoom keeps changing on us. So if you've updated your Zoom, you may notice that there are lots of fun little changes. But everything we know and love is still the same. So you can still go to view and do a gallery view and say hello to everybody just by waving and yeah, just saying hello and where you're from. So I'll give you a second to just do that. I love seeing all the different places that everybody's coming from. So we've got Seacliff, New York, Montgomery, Alabama, Switzerland, Winchester, Massachusetts, Bethesda, Maryland, Rye, New York, Vermont, Halifax, West Palm Beach, Florida. I happen to be standing 45 minutes north of New York City in Cortlandt Manor, which is Lenape land. And who you just heard barking was Simba. And I just would love to let us land here. So landing here together, wherever we are, landing here together in our own place and space and in our own experience of being in the body. So I'll tell you a little bit about why we started Women Together. And if you've been with us before, this might be quite familiar. And if you are just joining us for the first time, it really is just such a joy to have you and such a wonderful way for us to come together in what have been quite trying times. And today's topic is on maintaining hope. So really just landing in this space and kind of what we're maintaining hope about and through today. So I'll just invite us into a moment of stillness to do that. And the way that we do a moment of stillness is it's really just a tiny practice. So we're not necessarily going into an hour long or day long or many days long meditation, but we're evoking the quality of that into different moments of our lives. So really just allowing a tiny practice to remind us of the essence of who we are, to bring us back to the breath. So the invitation is to just land here in the body. You can place both feet on the ground if that's comfortable for you. And just feel a connection to the ground, connection in the body. And then just as you turn the reflection or the gaze inwards, maybe just lowering your gaze or closing your eyes. Inhaling, feeling the air enter through the nostrils. Filling the belly, filling the chest, and then exhaling out completely. Just staying with the sensation of the breath going in and out of the body. So staying with that sensation, I'll ring the chime or ring the bell to let us land here, and I'll ring the bell to bring us back. Welcome back. I feel like we could just spend a little hour of being in that space together and just knowing that we're all in our own places, but we're just coming back to self, and that would help us maintain hope in and of itself. But I thought we could just check in, as it's been really lovely to do, in the chat. So whether you're in Zoom or you're in YouTube, if you share directly into the chat or the comments, just what's coming up for you now, and maybe what brought you here today to this session about maintaining hope. And what we'll do today is I'll just share a little bit about some of our thinking on maintaining hope. We'll move into a practice, an embodied practice, and some journaling before we go into the best part of our time together, which is really getting to connect with one another. So we do that in Zoom through breakouts. We do that through our conversation space for those of us who can't stay, and just stay in that connection with each other. So I love this from right, the first one in, to get away from TV news, which gets me away from hope. Totally agree. For me, it's absolutely TV, Twitter, anything that lets me know what's going on in a lot of other people's lives. It's does definitely start to take me away from hope. One thing that brought Anne here is peace. Deb, I will never give up hope. Beautiful. So yeah, feel free to share and type directly in the chat. So at the bottom of the screen, there's a little message button. It says chat, and you'll see a box come up on the right, and you can type right into everyone. Yeah, Susan, in quarantine with 15-year-old emotional high school granddaughter, she needs some hope. And I would agree completely that our teens definitely need some hope, because there's an uncertain future. And yes, everyone I know is looking for hope at the moment. Yeah. Karen hasn't joined one of these sessions since June. It's great to have you back. Important to maintain hope, and wanted to reconnect with this community. Oh, Bianca, just feeling so tired of it all. I'm with you. Hear you. I've seen the power of hope and positive thinking from Kathy. Susan, can't do algebra. It is definitely the remote learning thing for our young people right now is quite a challenge, but it's going to make them more resilient, right? They will have many more skills than many of us had at that point in time. So yeah, so my ability to be hopeful is being tested, Pat. Yes, hopeful for being guided to hope from everyone. So frustrated by the events of the past days and love participating in Women Together. Hope and positive people, refuge from manipulation and negativity, connecting with similar-minded women with hope. Yeah, so there's a lot that we could kind of look at in the world right now and feel a lot of things about. And I am with all of you and all of us in this kind of feeling. Oh, I love Debbie. Hope equals vote. Beautiful. Yeah. So I wanted to bring in some thinking about hope today. In part because yesterday I told someone that I was doing a session on maintaining hope, and she said, they have the wrong speaker. And I said, haha, I know. There are moments for all of us where, we just drop into whatever it is, and she was giving me some, what was going on with her. And I was like, well, here are all the reasons that it's never going to work, and, I'm not going to look at all that right now. And we all do it. We all have these moments where we either worry about the future or have some kind of regret about the past. And it's easy. It's so easy to kind of fall into either one of those things. I was talking to someone else today, and she said, she was describing something and she said it's like having these two bus handles, and on the one hand you can go back and on the other hand you can go forward, and I'm kind of going between the two. And it's like, how do we actually land here in this moment where we're not just reaching for one of those bus handles that we're so familiar with, and kind of actually drop in to being able to stand steady. And um, I definitely have my moments of, oftentimes for me, it's actually the morning where I'm like, wow. And then sometime in the mid afternoon, I'm like, everything's beautiful again. So that could happen on a daily basis. It could happen on a monthly basis. Who knows? But there are often these kinds of roller coasters of hope, and roller coasters of feeling that we roll into and roll out of. And I think for me, it's been, just important to allow myself to feel those things. But the other thing that I wanted to share about hope is just that hold on, I'm actually going to pull up a little quote um, from, here we go, Sharon Salzberg. Um, so the thought behind this quote, and it's quite simple, is that often we're looking at what might happen and we're attaching either some kind of ambition or some kind of desire for something to happen. So we might say, I hope this person gets elected in the election. And we pin our hopes on that. Or I hope I get this job. I hope I accomplish this thing. There's something that we're pinning the hope on. And either when that happens, we're then not happy anymore. When it doesn't happen, or when it doesn't happen, we're not happy anymore. Or when it does happen, we feel a certain thing or a certain way. And the reality of it is that hope doesn't actually stem from that future place. That hope is actually what we can sit in the moment. That when we actually look at what's happening in front of us, and this is the Sharon Salzberg quote, what is happening in front of us is not the end of the story. It's just what we can see. This too shall pass. And it just reminds me that this moment, maybe we can see one aspect of the weave in the fabric, but we're not actually seeing that whole cloth, and the whole cloth itself is beautiful. That whole piece of even what we're looking at is beautiful, but it's only this one little part of what's actually happening, and so for me, that was really helpful to just reframe and land back into, oh yeah, it's not about the future. It's not about the past. It's about, here I am in this moment, in this body, with this, ability to do whatever I can do. And that I can't possibly know, what it's in service of, or what it's, it's larger than whatever I can understand right now. So, and my reality is sort of only based on what I can see, and I can't see everything. So how cool is that? So I think there's just something that I've been carrying around that actually that hope that, I talked about earlier, the ambition, the kind of what's going to happen in the future, that is actually, it's limited and it's not sustainable. So when we really think about what it means to maintain hope, then it's really about kind of reframing our perspective. And there are three things that help me do that. So the three things that I sit with to help me do that are confidence, curiosity, and gratitude. And so the confidence aspect of it is not, again, it's not a contrived confidence, but it's really a, sometimes it's, physical. I can land in my body and we'll do an element of that. But sometimes it's actually looking at, I've been through a lot. I've made it through this thing, like I went through this really difficult physical time, or I went through this really difficult conversation. I've been through so much. And if I could get through all that, then I can get through this, whatever it is, or whatever's coming. And just kind of being in that place of confidence that I have the capacity to handle what's happening and what's coming. The curiosity is a reframe for me. So the curiosity, I often will do this kind of thing where I am like, oh, this is so bad, or why did this happen? It could be anything from the dishes to, I'm like, why did these dishes end up here? How did this happen? Or it could be something much more major. But the question is, do I dwell in that, or do I hold a curiosity around it? And it's not curiosity of like, why did this happen? Because that curiosity is actually a disguise for judgment. So the curiosity that I'm talking about is, oh, isn't that interesting? The dishes are here. So just looking at that with a different sense of perspective, a different sense of curiosity of how might I address this new situation that I'm in. And last week we talked about reactivity versus response, and that movement into how can I get creative with this? How can I actually um, use that moment of reactivity as a doorway into being able to craft a conscious response? So my reaction might be, oh, that's interesting, the dishes are here, or why are they here, or whatever it is. But really the looking at that moment as, okay, how can I craft a creative response to this? And what could my elevated consciousness give me in this moment, that I can learn from this reaction and choose a new one? And I think the same thing applies to being able to be hopeful, because all of a sudden, if I can craft a new response, then I can have hope that I can keep doing that. I can keep crafting a new response. I'm not going to stay in that triggered reactive place. So there's more to say about curiosity, and I'd be very curious to hear what you might come up with. And the other one is gratitude. So I think this is, one that we all know well, but being, just finding elements that I can be grateful for all of a sudden shifts my perspective every time. It's like, oh, wow, I can use my feet. I can stand. I broke my toe once and it was terrible. And I couldn't, walk properly. And I had a little thing. And there are many, many worse things that many of us have been through when it comes to physical movement. So just knowing that, oh, I have the capacity to move this part of my body, and maybe it's where I didn't before, or, a gratitude for the breath, a gratitude for breakfast, whatever it is. It could be very small, and it could be really much, much larger. But just finding that gratitude all of a sudden shifts perspective to be able to maintain hope, and having a practice around gratitude. I try to do 3 gratitudes every morning. So that said, I thought we could do a little physical practice. If this is something you feel good about, you can step into it. If not, don't worry about it. You do your thing, and we'll just be here together. So the invitation is to stand. So if you can stand up, you can find a spot. I'm already standing. And this is, I love watching everybody stand up. It's great. We're already moving together. It's a movement. Beautiful. So in this standing posture, if you can, Eileen, I talked about this last week, I think, but Eileen talks about wiggling her toes. So when she has a kind of reaction, she sort of leaves a little bit. And when she can wiggle her toes, it draws her back into her body. For me, the wiggling in my toes, actually, it does something similar, but it pulls me back in from engaging. So I talked about how my knees lock up. So we're gonna focus on all of it's like kindergarten, like the knees, toes song, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. There we go. We're basically doing that. But we're gonna do it, a little bit more adult, right? So landing the feet on the floor, just lifting up the toes and seeing just for a moment, this is how much control do we even have over our body? And just landing, see if you can land one toe at a time. Can you land one toe at a time onto the ground? And if you have shoes on, that's okay, but just noticing. Typically, I can do my pinky toe, and you can look down and see what's going on, but I can do my pinky toe, and then the 3 toes in the middle, I'll just sort of thump at the same time. So wherever you are is fine. Maybe you are a super yogi and you've got this down, but just seeing what happens. It's one little part, right? One or 10 little parts of the body, but these teeny little parts, and we don't even have control over that. So how do we have control over anything else, right? But just noticing in our toes, the feeling of landing each toe on the body, down on the ground, and then feeling that space just behind the big toe, the big pad of the foot, just landing that fully on the ground, feeling into all the points of the foot, and then bringing a slight bend into the knees. I just saw the whole screen relax. Maybe it was me projecting, but I definitely saw it too. So just feeling into the knees, just relaxing a little bit. And with that, the hips kind of relax. So you can practice this, but and don't go wild with it, but just practicing bringing the hips back and bringing them underneath the shoulders. You can practice bringing them forward. You're tucking the hips and bring them under the shoulders, sending them back, bringing them under the shoulders. There are so many ways that we unconsciously move our hips, like we'll be slouching, all of a sudden our hips are tucked, like our pelvic bowl just goes under like that. And then there are often times when we're walking and we're angry or something and our hips will go back, so our knees lock, our hips go back. So just dropping the hips under the shoulders. Remember the knees, remember the toes. They're all still there. And then shoulders are over the hips, but just using the breath, exhale everything out, and then inhale up the back of the spine. So inhale this up the spine, opening the shoulders, open the hands. So the hands just open out. And as the hands open out fully, you can keep your fingertips towards the ground. Just feeling all of these different points of the body, but the fingertips, now there's an energetic connection between the shoulders and the fingertips. And you can feel it almost like a point of light shooting out of the fingertips. Inhale and exhale. And then tune into the crown of the head. And just being fully in this alive, awake body. Feeling the confidence that comes with this posture, with this stance of standing on the earth. And standing with this 100 or so women on our different points of the earth. Just being fully in it and fully who we are. And inhale, draw up any energy that you need from the earth. And exhale anything that you want to share out with the world. Exhale that out. And I love that Diane just brought in a little shake, so we can bring in a little shake. And if you want to, you can stretch it out, but you can bring in a little shake. Just shake the shoulders, shake the hands. Following the breath. You can shake out the ankles and the toes. Shake out the ankles and the toes. Shake out the hips a little bit. Just feel into what it means to move the body. How good it can be to just move the body. And you can come back to that standing posture in yoga. It's called Tadasana or mountain pose. Just knowing that you have this mountain pose. You have this standing posture, you have this ability. And even if it's sitting up straight, I don't know if standing isn't in your repertoire right now, even if it's just sitting up and feeling that sense of aliveness, tuning into the earth, tuning into the sky, centering into knowing that this body is one little piece of the fabric of the universe. Just being with that. One very important piece, but also one little piece. And when you're ready, you can come back and perhaps find a piece of paper and a pen or pencil. Just knowing that at any time you can find that sense of uplift. It's often when I'm sitting in something that if I just stand up for a moment, it's literally just taking a moment to stand up, looking, as somebody calls it, looking out the window. So just going to the window, and just looking out the window for a moment and just being fully there. I could be in a fight with someone, I could have something happening, and I just get up, stand up, be in myself for a minute, and get that kind of recycle, refresh, new perspective, and come back. So paper, pen, and we'll just, Monica just asked, it was confidence, curiosity, and gratitude. And yes, I will post the Sharon Salzberg quote. But for now, we'll just journal for a couple minutes before we go into our connection with each other. So I mentioned that part of the holding confidence and being in that stance can be just thinking through a few things that you've had to face in your life. So you have faced these things, you have overcome them, you have been resilient, you've fallen, you've gotten back up. And you can just write down three things that you have overcome that have made you stronger. And just write those down. Just noticing that, so the three things that we're writing are three things that you've overcome. And just noticing that each of those things made you stronger. So it's all in service of making you stronger. And being able to face those things means you can face a lot more. And perhaps the next one, writing down what action can you take. So in different ones of those you may have had, so for me, one of them was about facing fear. And when I faced fear, I took a specific action in order to face that fear. So in each of those three, or maybe in something else that's coming up for you, you could write down what action were you able to take. So in this small instance, we stood up. And that's an action. That's a simple action. It might be I took out a scissor and cut up a piece of paper. But what action did you take? And we'll just close it with three things you're grateful for. So 3 things you're grateful for today. And one little extra thing, this is the bonus one. If you could do an act of kindness today, what would it be? So it's often said that hope itself is a radical act. So I highly encourage us to find ways to stay radical in that way. And continue to maintain hope by actually sometimes taking an action that we wouldn't normally have taken. And that might be an act of kindness, that might be an act for and with our bodies, for ourselves, for someone else. Um, but that kind of ability to maintain hope, I think it's worth repeating. It's not for me about this kind of ambition or I'm going to pin my hope on something else. It's really about what is it that I can do to hold hope with this moment, with what I have and who I am. So and also I love there's a thing called Project Hope, and I love this. Someone said it coming in here that we look to each other for hope. And often I'll make a phone call and I'll just, if I'm needing hope, if I'm, just absent of it, then I will call on a friend and, just ask someone to sit with me in it and just talk about it and get it out. And then I can find hope buried somewhere under there too. Um, so that's where we turn to each other. And these groups, whether you're joining us in the conversation space, if you're on YouTube, you can go over to conversations.womentogether.com and find each other there. And if you're here with us in Zoom, we're going to turn to each other now and have a good 20 minutes to just connect with each other. And just a reminder, everyone is going through our own struggle, our own moment. And, we might not know. And I've said this often, we might not know what the other person had for breakfast this morning, let alone what they're struggling with or what they might need to share. But the question is not about giving each other advice, but sitting with each other in a place of hope. And so what that might mean for you and how you hold that for yourself, feel free to share that. But let's refrain from what I think you should do is, that kind of advice, and just really holding with each other a space of deep listening, and really just hearing one another. And hopefully this 20 minutes will go well. Last time we had a little glitch and it forced us to look at our reactions and responses. So we'll do our best to make sure that that we get us all in and we've updated our Zoom and we're ready. And we'll try to give each other each enough time to speak. So we'll let you know when we're getting ready to close the rooms. And for those of you on Zoom, we'll see you back here in 20 minutes. For those of you on YouTube, we'll see you again next week on Tuesday. Thank you all for joining and being together. And we'll see you on Zoom in just 20 minutes. Enjoy your time together.